Making your way with the nerds today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from hating JJ sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to just get laid? Sometimes you wanna go where all the Trekkies know your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be in a galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
What is going on, everybody? Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here, and as is not usual for our early morning streams, we have a whole panel here. Manu, who is sponsored by Coca-Cola today. Okay, I'm going to try to get this right. Manu Intiraymi.
You got the second one right. It's Manu, but
Manu
yeah.
Intiraymi.
That's me.
All right, so and I heard you tell a story that your name is basically your parents were hippies, and so they gave you like an Incan god name or something like that.
That's about the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Manu, who I know most of you don't really care about, but really what you're here to see is Bird O' Prey 5 is here with us.
Apply, everybody.
And
thank you.
Because of unfortunate laws involving quota systems
and
equal rights, we have to put one Canadian on, so we have Captain Foley.
I'm the token Canadian.
Yes.
Hi, guys.
Sorry.
Do you know what that is?
I don't know if I want to know what that
Can't
is.
say I do.
That's Polish boxing.
So you tell where this is going real fast. So, Manu.
Yes.
There has been a ton of talk after last week's Picard episode about you.
Well, not a necessary. Well, yeah, I guess so.
A lot of it has been about you, and thank you, Death by Rabies, for the $3 super chat. Always giving a fist bump.
Justice for Icheb.
But
Thank you.
But yeah, absolutely. You know, the justice for Icheb, the fact that, you know, number one, your character was kind of unceremoniously offed, and that you weren't even playing the part. So I want to ask you, because I'm sick of people speculating and rumors and all that crap. Were you asked to play the part?
No, not at all.
Did you approach them about playing the part?
Yes. For the last year, I've been in conversations with a couple of friends behind the scenes. All three people that I know really well behind the scenes. You know what? I'm just going to keep it real. I've got some friends over there from Roddenberry, Rod and Trevor, who are producers that I've been chatting with for about a year, and I'd been poking fun at Jerry back and forth on Instagram for about a year to try to figure out if we could get the Icheb character back on the air or not.
Right.
And it felt like the right, show and the right plot line to do it. And for all I knew, I was really positive, like 90 percentile, that sometime in the next few seasons, Icheb would be back. I wasn't NDA'd. There was no contract, but I was getting a thumbs up that they were trying hard to pitch bringing him back in some way, shape, or form. But then a couple nights ago, that happened, and then that's been it. So I was not offered. No one ever said, "Hey, do you want to come on and die?" And if they would have, I would have loved to. Truthfully, I would have been there in a heartbeat.
So you had no heads up that was coming?
No, none at all.
Wow.
Pretty cold. It's the industry, man, you know. I also have no idea why I wasn't offered the role. Jerry said it was nothing to do with her. Trevor said it was nothing to do with him. Rod said it was nothing to do with him. And they don't know. I just got a big I don't know. So not that I'm like deserve an answer. It's their show. It's Paramount's and CBS's thing. It's not it's not my character, but I did put so much of my life into that character, and I've been connected to him for so long, and it hurt to watch. I'll tell you that much. It hurts now to even talk about. It just hurts. I'm not angry. I'm not like livid. I'm not like outraged. I'm just like, ow, that's all.
As fans, we care. I mean, as fans, we cared. First thing we checked was like, it looks like Icheb, but it doesn't look exactly. And I know within seconds, I had IMDb up, I had Google up. I was trying to see if it was you, and everything was saying no. And I was like, what the F? And I did the same thing when Maddox came on.
I was also very surprised that with all the lead up, there was a lot of fans out there. At least it appeared to me. And my world is very small. Maybe I don't have the fan base I think I do, but it appeared to me there were a lot of people asking for Icheb before Picard came out, and it seemed like somebody over there would have heard the message and responded to it favorably instead of the really quick and cold death that they gave him after all that buildup in Voyager. I don't like it, and it makes me sad, and I don't really have much else to say about it unless you have another question I could spew on. It's just sad.
I'll be honest, and all I'm going to ask. People are speculating that the entire scene of them butchering you was kind of an FU for your, I don't know, things you've said perhaps on Twitter in the past.
I wonder if that's the truth too. And I speculated maybe I offended somebody over there. I checked because for the last 20 years at conventions, I make sexual jokes about 7 of 9. I was 20, 21 years old on the show. So I've made some jokes on stage. I thought maybe I offended her. Jerry wrote and said, no, Manu, I love you. We've traveled together. We've known each other 20 years. I had a blast working with you on that show. I would have loved to do that scene with you. I found out when I got to work that it was not you, and it surprised me like it would have surprised you. I couldn't tell you after the fact because she had an NDA. But I don't know if that is the case, because I can speculate like you can and think it feels that way, but does that mean it's true?
In truth, it's one of the things we're never going to know unless Alex Kurtzman decides he wants to write a whole book.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't know this, one of the things that happened 3-4 years ago was I defended Kevin Spacey on Twitter when the allegations first came out, because he was a friend of mine when I was younger. Not a friend, not even a colleague, but I'd met him a couple times and he'd been nice to me, and he didn't seem like that kind of guy. And through the grapevine, I hadn't even watched the news yet, I heard that he had come on to Anthony. And I said some things on Twitter like, I'll leave this guy alone. He just came on to a kid. He didn't rape him, blah, blah, blah. That had a huge backlash. A bunch of people in the Star Trek community even started a ban, and I've basically been blacklisted from the convention scene for the most part. And before I knew that I had even stumbled and said such a horrible thing, I looked into the news. I found out a little bit more about the charges and the more and more people coming out against Kevin Spacey. And when I realized I was wrong, I apologized. And one of the first people to accept my apology was Anthony Rapp himself. Very kindly, very Trek-like, very, like a human being would. Hey, you said something out of an emotional place, and I understand that. No worries. So I don't think
Anthony Rapp Stamets for those who weren't sure.
Yeah. He was very kind and gracious and in accepting my apology, and so I don't understand how that would transfer into them deciding to rip out Icheb's brain and cortical node as a message to me to be a better person. Well, it could be, but I don't know. I don't think that. To me, that's really a pretty strong thing to do especially when Anthony himself isn't angry at me. But
right, and that's actually the funny thing about it is that that's the part of the story that you never hear, right? I've heard a million times, like people saying, you know, that there have been people that have actually approached me and said, "Oh, you shouldn't have Manu on the show, because he said these horrible things about Kevin Spacey and all that." And you know, and I've heard about all this stuff between you and Anthony Rapp. I never heard that you guys actually buried the hatchet on that. I never once heard that, and that to me is indicative of some of the problems with Twitter culture. You know, that we unfortunately hear the negative stuff. We don't hear the positive stuff. Hate sells so much better than love, right? That's just a fact. That's, you know, that's
a drag.
Yeah. And by the way, what's his face? Actual names puts in $5 and says, "Shame on them. Your performance was amazing on Voyager. I'm sure you would have been great." I agree. I think that here's the thing. First of all, I will absolutely say this. I truly admire your professionalism in acknowledging that Icheb does not belong to you, that Icheb belongs to the studio, and you recognize it, and you get that. And a lot of actors can't do that, right? You know, a lot of actors, they think they are the part and that they're more important than the character. And I get that you're not so full of yourself that you're going to say that.
No.
That being said, there was absolutely no reason. I mean, you were never accused of anything. You know, as far as I know, I mean, unless you're
just really being a dick in general, kind of.
Yeah, but
wait, PC and PC.
Manu, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Do you live in the greater Los Angeles area?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so being a dick is kind of a requirement of living in the greater Los Angeles area. So what? I mean, I'm sorry. You know, and this is something to all of my friends out there that have told me not to have you on because you said some things defending a guy who may have done some really bad things in the past.
Yeah.
My opinion on that is, look, Manu himself has not been accused of anything. And if he has an unpopular opinion, that's not a reason to crucify the guy. I want to find out why he might have that opinion, but I'm not going to sit there and throw him into the fire just because he doesn't think the same way I do. If I wanted an echo chamber, I certainly wouldn't want Bird of Prey or Captain Foley on with me because we disagree about stuff all the time. And I understand that's not how some people think. They think they basically get into right think, wrong think. Right. So Manu said something bad, therefore Manu is out.
It's also really, it's indicative of Twitter culture and social media culture. And like, I'll even get in trouble when like a lot of fans have written me and said, "Hey, you know, I think you're a crappy person. You should unfollow me," etc. about this Kevin Spacey debacle in the past. And each and every one of them, I've taken the time to like say, "Hey, contact me privately. We can talk about this. I can explain exactly what went down over those few days and why you should give me a second chance." And a fan that was called Captain's Assistant, I think, I don't know his or her name, but they reposted my whole conversation with them on Twitter. And it's a really nice conversation that explains and even has Anthony Rapp saying, "Hey, yeah, I don't hold a grudge against Manu. I think he made a mistake. Forgive him, etc." in the stream. And when I repost that on my Twitter, I get a bunch of hate for like, "Why would you repost this crap? You're just defending yourself.
How dare you defend?
How dare you?" Yeah,
from false charges.
Yeah, and so the hate just doesn't really stop. But I no matter what you do, and I've tried to explain my position that I just made a mistake, an emotional gut mistake. It's like if somebody you thought you knew got accused of something, you would you defend them. Well, then you watch the news and you see how much more there is to the story. And I made a Facebook video. I apologized and apologized and apologized, and I've been doing it to this day. So, and I'm all, I'm very
well. I will say this on behalf.
I'm very, very sorry.
On behalf of this little corner of the nerd community, there are definitely no hard feelings And
Cool.
I'm glad to hear. I mean, honestly, I've heard more in just the last few minutes to clarify what happened than through the entire run of the mess leading up to this point. So thank you for your candor on that.
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate it.
The other thing that's very strange is, like, I'm just gonna like lay it out there. I am like the most lefty liberal, wet foot in the ocean, bisexual. I'm a big supporter of LGBTQ rights and mental illness and like women's rights and just human rights. I'm a good person, and
You're in Los Angeles. We get it.
I know. I said some stupid things, and like I can't believe sometimes. Well, it's just taught me the lesson that if you have any amount of following on, my earphones are messing up again. Can you guys still hear me?
We can hear you fine.
No.
We can
Yes,
hear
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, there we go. You just better think before you speak, and I've been doing that over the last few years instead of just my personality hasn't changed. I'm still gonna make crude jokes. There was some other things on Twitter, in fact, like I made a crude joke about a figure skater that I thought was really hot when I was a kid, that I think I probably masturbated to, and then I said, what was the tweet was something about triple Lutz all over the place or something, which is, it's a rude joke. Wasn't funny, but I did it. I'm a man. I am attracted to people, and sometimes I say, and I'm also that guy that's like 42 and didn't have a computer as a kid, and so I didn't quite understand that. I always looked at online as a place where you could just like be Slim Shady and say whatever the heck you meant, like you didn't mean, and it wouldn't have repercussions on who you are. And I think there's a generations before me, younger than me, don't see it that way. Like, you are your voice on online. And I always looked at it as like a place where you could not be yourself.
I've also looked at it that way, and I think that was the better way.
Yeah, it was. You could just, I also said something about Trump. I hate Donald Trump. I am not a Trump fan in any way, shape, or form. But I said something reflective of like when he said, "Grab him by the pussy." Think, am I supposed to? Can I beep beep?
That's
Well,
all right.
when he said that, I made some joke, like, I don't remember what it was, but that offended people too. So maybe I offended the liberal PC community that I'm actually a big part of, except for the PC part. I'm more of a, like, lighten up, everybody. We all have labels, and people are going to label you at any time or place. It's
Right.
But anyway, yeah, hopefully that didn't happen. If it did, it did. But I truthfully don't have the answer for why they.
Well, and the funny thing
Killed
is,
it.
like, and one thing I think that like a lot of, like, I have friends that are liberal, friends that are conservative, but as far as like when we talk about free speech, First Amendment, that kind of garbage, the one thing that we should all be able to recognize is that the speech that needs defending isn't the speech we agree with.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and I know Captain Foley's kind of like lost because it's like free speech. What's that, eh? Because Canada, but but if you're gonna support free speech, that means that if somebody wants to go out there and make an ass of themselves, like think of the James Gunn thing with some of the jokes that he posted on Twitter, right? And he actually, for a brief time, lost his directing gig with Guardians of the Galaxy until Disney realized what a stupid thing that would be to do, so they brought him back. But it's like, when you're going to ruin someone's career because they told a bad joke.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah. By the way, Ryan said that he's sorry it went down like this. At least your work on Voyager is forever there. That said, couldn't they still bring you back for 7 of 9's flashbacks?
If they did, I would dance the jig and run around the room and scream and be super excited. I'm sure they could. Yeah, well,
I think that's. I would actually. I know that some people float around the idea that since you and Q Jr. were kind of buddies, that Q Jr. could snap you back to life.
That would be fantastic. I'd love to go back to work with him too. He was a really fun kid.
You know, I want to see you and Del Orco together.
Yeah, I thought that had so much storyline possibilities, and that they could be on different sides of the issue on the Borg thing and the AI thing. I don't know. I thought there was, you know, the virus in his bloodstream. That he had just such a great backstory, and there was so much more storyline left for him. To kill him like that, I thought was brutal.
Right. And in fact, think about him. He is designed, like you said, the virus that he's carrying. He is an anti-Borg weapon. He is a walking Borg killer.
So it could be something as simple as that. Maybe they wanted to get rid of that. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to. Maybe it was a flashback scene in the first place, right? So maybe the kid. Maybe I'm just too old in their minds, so they wanted to hire a kid younger than me.
How dare they actually hire someone who's age appropriate? I know that doesn't.
It could be something like that. They wanted a younger looking, and that's all it is. But I don't have the answer, so all I can do is speculate with others. That's it.
Fleetpaw says, "I'm going to be perfectly honest, Manu. I'm never going to get your name. It's funny. I worked so hard on pronouncing your last name that I can't pronounce your first name. I hate that.
It's all right. It's just Manu.
Manu,
like Manu. It's open up and say Manu. There we go.
So Fleetpaw says, I never knew a bit of what happened. I was always a fan of your character, and nothing changed about that. Live long and prosper."
Thank you, Fleetpaw.
And these are, I don't know how well you know the YouTube thing, but these are all super chats that are coming in. People wanted to say things to you. Tyrannicus says, Picard's premise of a ragtag crew gathered by a famous admiral seems awfully derivative of Star Trek Renegades to me, where Icheb was great. I will say this. I'm going to be honest here. Please don't shoot the messenger. I'm not a big fan of Renegades. Now, I liked you in it, and I liked Corin in it, but I don't like the premise. Because it feels very antithetical to Trek. The whole idea that Admiral Chekhov is like, oh, we got this situation that the Federation can't deal with. Hire a bunch of ruthless killers to do it for us.
Yeah, the whole like Section 31 thing.
Yeah, I was like, no. In fact, one of the big, and I don't know how you felt, because I know you saw your death, obviously. Did you watch that entire episode? I don't know. I'm curious to see what you think of this, because you know Trek. Like you said, it's been a big part of your life.
Yeah. So
I think they butchered Jerry Ryan's character 7 of 9 in this episode, because at the beginning of and I know me and Bird disagree a little bit on this, but this is just my opinion on it. Is that at the beginning of the episode, she's of course distraught over your death. She spends the episode tracking down the person responsible for your death. At the end of the episode, they catch up with the person, and in a very classic Star Trek moment, you have Jerry Ryan's got her by the throat, ready to rip her head off, and Picard and Rios both talk her down, basically, and say, no, don't kill her. They go back to the ship. Then, while they're on the ship, she says, hey, Picard, can I have a couple of phaser rifles? Gets them, beams back down, blows her away. Kills her in cold blood. And I'm like, what? Did I just that's not 7? What the whole point of 7's arc was relearning to be her humanity. Yeah. And that just shows me that she has no humanity.
To revenge is human, anti-Trekker. To revenge is human.
I guess that's true.
The idea of Star Trek has always been that we're better than that.
That has not always been. It seems like at some point in the recent history, Star Trek has lost some of that.
Right. Well, I think with Discovery and Picard, Star Trek has become nihilistic.
And in some ways, I would agree with you. And the JJ universe too. It lost that sort of ideological and intellectual science fiction, and became more of like an action, drama.
Right.
And I think in some ways that's very sad. And for me, There were episodes like that even in Voyager, though, occasionally, all the way back. But for me, that's my favorite part of Star Trek is when they do the intellectual one-offs, the like more Hitchcockian, Twilight Zone-like intellectual episodes that make you think and have a metaphor for morals in society, right, and what's going on in society. That's my favorite part of Star Trek, and I think that's missing in some ways, and I hope in the future that they get writers that bring more and more of that back.
Ensign Rickey, he said, first of all, don't worry, your buddy Q2 will bring you back.
I hope so.
And also he says, and this is probably, I'm sure as an actor who did not play one of the main leads on Trek, this is the kind of question that you probably dread, but you probably get all the time. So what was it like working with, and then fill in the blank, right? And in this case, the question is John DeLance.
I didn't work with John DeLancey. I worked with his son more than anything. I didn't have any scenes with John himself. If you go back to Q2, I never worked with John. He was on the set for a couple of days that I was on the set, and we talked about sailboats. That's about it.
So you have a common interest in sailboats.
Well, he and my father both have sailboats and both like to sail. So I had just come back from Costa Rica and puked off my father's sailboat a bunch of times trying to go around a small island and hated it. And he was like telling me how to become a man and face the waters better next time, which I never learned, by the way. But John was great. His kid was great. Both those guys, especially his son, Keegan, they were a blast. They were fun people. And Keegan has gone on to become like I don't know if he's famous, but he's like a big diplomat for the United States and does a lot of important things. Smart kid.
Now, here's the question. Now, Jake Johnson Band asked the ultimate question here. He puts in all caps, all right, let's get to why everyone is here. Have you ever seen 7 of 9 naked?
See, these are the kind of questions that get me in trouble.
That's your answer right there. He just admitted it.
That no matter, like, have I ever imagined it? Jerry Ryan's a beautiful, beautiful woman. There was one time that I'll speak of that we were doing my favorite episode called Imperfection, where I give her my cortical node. And I was really excited to do the episode because I thought it was a metaphor for kidney transplant and for sacrificing for your friends and family, and thought it was really powerful. But there was a scene where they were taking my cortical node and replacing hers, and we were both under blankets, and we were just covered. She was covered by little pasties, and I was covered with a little panty thing. So I was feeling very effeminate myself at the time. But we were both close to nude, and I caught a glimpse of our close to nudeness together on those two tables.
It's I got to say, this is something that I joked around with people I've been talking to as soon as I found out I was going to be talking to you. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm thinking about now, I'm a little older than you, but I'm thinking about, man, when I was 21 years old, you put me in a room with Jerry Ryan looking the way she looked 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, especially like 20.
She's still gorgeous.
Oh, I'm not saying she's not, but
But I feel, and this is the other joke that I've gotten so much hate for. Very often in Star Trek conventions, I've brought to the attention of the fan base that it's very hard to hide an erection in a Starfleet uniform.
Yes.
And I was 21 years old, and it wasn't just Jerry Bryan. It was the fact that there was other beautiful women on that set. It had nothing to do even sometimes with the beautiful women on set. Just had to do. I was 21 years old, and it just does what it does at that age sometimes for no reason, even when a bunch of boys are on set. And well, that's kind of my thing too. It didn't have anything to do with that either. But you can't do the flip and tuck. You can't. There's just no way to hide it. And it's a joke, man. It was like, but there were times on the set I had to like run off and say I needed to go to the bathroom or eat a bagel and just let my thing, calmed down, so I didn't have a big raging boner on set. That would be that wouldn't fly. I guess they could just shoot the 2-shot during that. But the truth of the matter is, all joking aside, working with Jerry Ryan was amazing, and she was super professional. I was super professional, even when we were nude together or close to nude with the little pasties and the little tidy. They're like skin-colored thongs almost. We were 2 actors playing roles, and also she was my mother figure, so there was never any sexual hanky-panky going on. It was more about creating the scene and trying to make an incredible show for people.
So a couple of people want to know, what's your general opinion of the Orville?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm dying to get on it. I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to try to get on that show.
You should talk to Seth MacFarlane. In fact, you should create a character who's like a cybernetic character called Achu.
Achu or Mitch. I've thought about this too. Or he's a little chubby. He's called Chubby or Icheb or Mitch, or just his name could be Icheb, and they could call him Mitchy. I think have they done a cybernetic sort of like play on the Borg on that show yet?
Well, they have the Kalons, but they're totally
they're synthetic.
Yeah,
totally. You'd have to be the first half Kalon.
I'd love to. I all I can tell you guys is that there's hope for going on that show at some point. One of my good friends works on it. He was one of the showrunners. One of the head guys at Voyager is now over there. I think you guys probably know his name. And hopefully, I'll get to do that someday. Otherwise, yeah, I love that show. I think everything about that show is fantastic. I think it's very funny, and also it strikes that balance between humor and drama very well, and it's very Trek-like. I love it.
To me, it's the closest thing to 90s Trek that we have,
Yeah.
far more than Discovery or Picard or even the 2009 movies.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and I feel the same way. It's a very, really well written and well acted and well told show. I've also had friends that have done some of the CG on that show. It's funny, and it's also heartwarming. I watched that episode the other night where I'm forgetting the name of the character, but he falls in love with the girl on the cell phone from I thought that was really sweet. I love that show.
I've likened Orville to being Star Trek: The Next Generation, except with the sticks removed from their asses.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's the best way to describe the show. I separate Trek into 3 generations, right? We have the Generation 1 was the original series and the animated series. Generation 2 was TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and 3rd generation is from 2009 on. And with 2nd generation Trek, honestly, I think that TNG was a little too pompous for its own good. I think that the Deep Space Nine really helped shake that loose. But the Orville is what TNG could have been.
I think in those particular generations, what the newest generation has done better than those the first 2 is humor. The JJ movies are very funny.
But unfortunately, the series have not been.
Are they meant to be funny?
Well, I think a lot of parts of them are, and I watched the premiere at Comic-Con of the 3rd film, and when they decided to play Beastie Boys, I mean, I thought that was fantastic, and it went, the humor was good, and that was one of the great parts of those films was Scotty and what's that actor's name? He's a wonderful actor. He does great comedy. Yeah, Simon Pegg was such a great choice to play that guy, and also I'm a big fan of Carl Urban playing Bones too. I think
Carl Urban nailed it.
Yeah, really funny. So So they hit the humor thing on the head. I always thought that Voyager and Deep Space and every time they tried to do humor, they kind of almost got there, but just didn't.
No,
yeah.
I think that the original series nailed the humor better than any of the second gen Trek.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I'll give you I think that the JJ films got humor, but unfortunately the CBS All Access shows have not. They seem to take themselves so seriously, and just a little too
seriously.
Yeah. My dear friend Ensign Rickey wants to know, outside of Trek, what is your favorite work?
Hot tar roofing. I just love getting up there and spreading that tar and the smell.
Really, you're not going to start talking about one of your indie films? Come on.
Oh, you mean stuff that I've done? What is my favorite work? Wow, that's tough. Outside of Trek. Well, there's a couple things that I'm doing now. I have a great and exciting film coming up in August that I'm acting in called Into the Wolves' Den. That's going to spread the information out there that a lot of people don't know. A lot of young Native American women are going missing from Indian reservations, and they don't get found, or they get sexually abused or raped or killed violently, and they don't get, their crimes don't get solved. They get solved like a fifth of the time as people outside the reservation's crimes get solved.
So is this like a police drama kind of thing, or like...
it's a drama for sure about something that really happened on the Cheyenne Indian reservation, and I play the baddie in it, so it's going to be a pretty intense role. But I'm excited about it. And my buddy James Bird is writing and directing. He's a phenomenal director. If you guys haven't seen his films, you should see them. And I'm also, for 3 years now, we've been in development on a really exciting, speaking of the Orville and satire, I have a project called The Circuit that I started on Kickstarter. And episode 1 of The Circuit has turned into a feature film called Star Crew. And Star Crew is basically Galaxy Quest meets Shaun of the Dead, and This Is the End. It's fantastic, and it's about a bunch of a crew of has-been Star Trek sci-fi actors on a show called Star Crew that have to face during a season finale Christmas party where fans can come and watch the final episode before it airs. And all the news and the networks are there at this Beverly Hills Christmas party. They have to face a villain and his entire army, Zombot army from another dimension, which is actually the episode that they're watching at the beginning of that night. A rift in reality gets opened that allows the villain from the episode to invade the party. And
that really does sound like a combination of Galaxy Quest and This Is the End. And
yeah. And so the villain has all these armies on Star Crew. They have these guys walking around on the ship called Friendlies, and Friendlies are very much it's by accident, but they're very much, they look like the AI red shirt things from Picard. They're just very friendly. They've got sort of Japanese animation eyes. And they'll help you do anything. They'll give you a back rub or a foot massage, or pour you a drink, or fix the problem in the ship. And early on in the episode, they get hit with this beam called the Great Harmony that wakes them all up, and they realize they are a slave race, and they become not so friendly. And Malcor and his army of friendlies are what this cast has to face at this party. And they, of course, can jump. I'm giving way too much away, but they can jump back and forth. There's another character that's phenomenal. His name is Logic. He's a mix between like Data and Spock. Hopefully played by Doug Jones, as long as his schedule permits. Anyway, it's an exciting movie. It's called Star Crew. We are so close to having it funded, and we're looking for another $400,000 to shoot for $2 million. Hopefully around the end of this year.
That's awesome. I hope you get it, because that sounds like a fun movie.
And the guy playing Captain Ron is an A-list actor, but because I can't announce him yet, I can't announce him yet.
Understood.
Yeah.
So Erudiate Fuzz says, no question, just want to say Picard did Icheb dirty, and seeing you interact with us lowly YouTuber dopes is a nice surprise. Well, let me say this, and I've heard this from everybody that has had interactions with you that I've talked to, is that you're just a down-to-earth cool guy. So even though, yes, it is a nice surprise to have a real bona fide actor talking to some schmoes that wear Star Trek shirts and have Star Trek gear all over their house and worship at the altar that you could sit upon.
Did you just call me bonafide?
No,
that's not cool.
Bonafide. I didn't say boner.
Bonafide. I think
bonafide
in bonafide.
We were talking about boners earlier. That you getting stop thinking about
Boners in your ear.
Yeah. You notice that's why if you look at Bird of Prey, why do you think he keeps his laptop monitor the way he does?
Yeah.
Absolute fact. Bird of Prey constantly has an erection. And Indie Tiger says, my favorite line from JJ Trek was Scotty saying the one rumor about the disappearance of the Franklin was a giant green hand that grabbed it. I don't even remember that.
I don't remember that either.
I didn't remember it either when I read it. I was like, oh.
Did he actually say that? If so, that would be kind of funny since
I don't think so. There's a green hand in the credits at the end, but
I have a really stupid favorite funny moment from Star Trek, and no one ever really agrees with me. But I think it was in First Contact, and Worf is up on the spaceship, and that lady from Earth gets beamed up to the spaceship for the very first time, and she sees Worf for the very first time, and she's terrified, and he just says, like,
I'm a Klingon. Yeah.
Like that should fix everything. I've rewound that a million times.
I love that. But Worf is the only person in TNG and Deep Space Nine that had some really genuine comedic moments just because of the nature of his character.
Yeah. Just because he was so serious about everything.
Warriors drink, but I mean,
I am not a merry man.
Yeah.
Hell of a leap, Captain.
Nice planet.
Oh, that's funny.
For the baseball game, we will kill them.
Like, no war.
Death to the opposition.
Yes, death to the opposition.
Vile Mike, he is very much a vile person, but he's also a good friend of the channel, says, can you ask Manu to say, buy something at STD Game Swap on eBay, or I'm going to put all of you in a cargo container and transport you all to the Borg.
Buy something at what? STD stop?
It's his. He has an eBay store, so it's buy something at SD Game Swap.
I was like STD stop. I wouldn't buy something there. I would never buy something there. Buy something at. Oh, I'll try it one more time. Say
SD Game Swap.
SD Game Swap. Buy something at SD Game Swap, or I'm going to put all of you in a cargo container and transport you to the Borg.
There you go, Vile.
There you go, buddy. You can
now,
use
of course,
that.
That should cost you a lot more than $5. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Cough it up.
Yeah.
And you know what's tough? Let's do another little pity party for Manu since we're here explaining me. The other thing that
Hollywood attitude's starting to come out.
Here it comes, yeah. So it's what's really tough. The hardest thing about watching Icheb die, besides having the connection to him and having put so much work into him and being proud of him, is that I'm like the one character that they built up and put on the show just enough to get famous, but never to make any money.
Oh.
And so then when they come along and they just kill you, it's like you not only see like your whole legacy disappear, but then you also realize that wow, I'm never going to make any more money. And fame and money are not mutually exclusive. I mean, they go together in this town very much. But I was on Voyager just long enough to like get known, but then not to be able to buy a house.
Right. Especially in California. So
all right, that's pity party for Manu.
He doesn't live in Beverly Hills, people.
Yeah. I just write screenplays about wanting to be. Yeah. And then I thought I'd move into producing, and I've produced 3 films. In fact, let me sputter out a few more movies. I produced a movie this year called Hell on the Border with Ron Perlman and myself and David Jesse about the first African American U.S. Marshal called Bass Reeves, and it's out on VOD right now. I had a lot of fun making it. There's another little. I'm like jumping all over the place because people wanted to talk about that question that I answered 20 minutes ago about my favorite work. I also did some great stuff on One Tree Hill, which is not really a Star Trek fans show, but
Bird watches One Tree Hill all the time.
Yeah, you pop boners to One Tree Hill as well. Yeah, I did too. I had a great time working on that show, and my buddy Mark Schwann, who's also felt a little taste of like being blacklisted for some statements that he's made, ran a wonderful show over there, and it was great fun working on it in North Carolina.
Marlena's saying, poor Foley. It's not like I'm stopping him from talking. He just doesn't want to talk.
I know. It was wild. I'll just step right on you, Foley, if you were about to say something. What happened in North Carolina that was really neat on One Tree Hill was my death scene in One Tree Hill. I take a bunch of squib shots in the chest, and I just had this weird feeling in the room. I didn't know that this was the case, but I said, "Hey, everybody, let's not have a Brandon Lee moment right here." And I felt the vibe of the room go, "Oh," Yeah. And I was like, what did I say? I happened to be sitting literally where he was. It was the exact studio, and all the guys that the grips and the guys that worked at Screen Gems for all those years that were still around were there that day. So I was immediately foot and mouth, typical Manu Intiraymi stuff. But it was neat because they got to open up and tell me about that day and everything that had happened. And I was a big Brandon Lee fan, and I felt like there was some supernatural thing that happened that day where I felt it, like I felt him in the air. And that was pretty wild. So that was probably my favorite work outside of Voyager on television. But, I love making movies. Anytime the camera's rolling, and there's a bunch of people trying to make a good film. I produced another film called Fifth Passenger recently, 5 years ago. We only made it for $200,000, and I think people, when they go in knowing that was our budget, will be really impressed by what they see. Stars some Star Trek people as well, Doug Jones and Marina Sirtis, myself, and Armin Shimmerman, Tim Russ. Mm-hmm. There's also a film called Unbelievable that's like coming out someday, somewhere. Yeah, I don't know when. Beats me. I didn't produce it, but I know they spent a bunch of money on it, and then they went and put Snoop Dogg in it. So at some point they've got to release it. I've seen it. I went to the premiere, so I think they're holding out to try to sell it for the money they put into it, and maybe someday that'll hit theaters. But it's like it's a really like lowbrow Naked Gun style movie with 54 Star Trek actors in it. And it's actually so bad that it's almost good, if that makes sense. It's one of those movies that
I've got the shirt "Live Long and Prosper My Ass" that I got from them in Vegas in 2013.
Yeah, it might be one of those films that like people see at midnight and quote 50 years from now, and I can't believe somebody made this movie kind of movies. But yeah, there's lots of things going on. Sorry to finish that question at a completely weird time, but it's midnight.
Orville Nation, who is responsible for this happening more than anybody else, puts $5 in, says, "Love you, Manu. Great interview, guys. Great wake for Icheb." Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here, is kind of a wake for Icheb. It's sad. Now, Aberjam puts in £2. Aberjam's over in the UK, and he says, "We need you to say death to Karoga."
No, don't do it. Don't do it. It's a trap.
Now, here's the thing, and I'll full disclosure here. Just so you know, this is an ongoing thing. between me and Bird of Prey, and it involves multiple Star Trek actors. So I want you to know what's going on in all fairness.
Okay.
Bird is, of course, a good friend. His YouTube channel, I helped him get it started and everything. And Bird actually helps me because he's like an IT guy and he runs my website and stuff for me. And so Bird has a fictitious nation state called Karoga, which is run by the evil god dictator Bird o' Prey 5, in other words, him. Meanwhile, I, as my avatar is a poop emoji, so someone came up with the name for my fictional country as being Turtistan. And Turtistan and Karoga have been in a brutal war ever since. And so J.G. Hertzler on a live stream in his full Martok voice went, "Death to Karoga," right? Which was wonderful because that was a huge victory for Turtistan. Wow. So then one of our subscribers then went and got oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Robert O'Reilly, who played Galron, to go, "Hail Karoga," and so there's this whole ongoing thing where we're trying to get different Star Trek actors to basically side with either the good free Republic of Turtistan or the evil dictatorship of Karoga. Now, before he tries to defend,
Karoga's not evil.
I just want to step in and say, Manu, all you have to say is "All hail Trek Yards." I think that
All hail Trek Yards would probably solve the problem. Yeah.
Well, actually, the neutral party in the war is the alpacas.
Ah, where are the alpacas from?
The moon.
Yeah.
And where is Turtistan?
It's with all the other stands.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And Karoga?
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Tough choice, huh?
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. So now I think Bird, in all fairness, you should disclose your mining situation.
There might be. Listen. Okay. There were a lot of Turtistani orphans that had no work. So we put them to work in the uranium mines of Karoga, where they can learn about, nuclear energy, nuclear power while they're mining uranium. We think
radiation. Yeah.
We think it's a public service. Actual natural uranium the radioactivity is actually very low. I mean, you could work at least 5 or 6 years before it's a problem.
And how long do the kids work?
5 or 6
until they run away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's about fair. Yeah.
But we think we're helping them.
Yeah, and the Free Republic of Turtistan, who runs? Is there a president?
So I'm the president of Turtistan. However, the queen of Turtistan is Mrs. Anti-Tracker.
Oh, so it's a monarchy.
And she appointed the president.
No, she didn't. No, the president is duly elected by the people. It's just that since she endorsed me, everybody voted for me because everybody worshipped her. She's so awesome.
A highly questionable election.
I will tell you, and it would be completely unfair for me to do this, so I won't. I could wake up Mrs. Anti-Tracker and just have her talking to the microphone. You would immediately side with Turtistan.
Well, the truth of the matter is the United States of Intiraymi is too big to really even deal with little republics of Turtistan or Karoga. So
the United States of Intiraymi refuses to take sides in our.
Yeah, it's just like, I'll let you guys do what you guys do, but it doesn't affect me.
So yes, that's us being total nerds. Mexican Iron Man. By the way, Mexican Iron Man is obsessed with making a Mexican version of Iron Man. You should probably work with him on that. You could probably make that happen. Very politically incorrect character, I think.
I think the Mexican people need a superhero in such a bad way. It's ridiculous. There's the lack of Mexican superheroes.
Well, not without throwing some kind of stereotype in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Is there? But seriously, can you think of one? It's not
Speedy
right.
Gonzalez.
That's not a superhero. That's a cartoon.
It's basically the Flash.
There are. I mean, I'm not an expert on the more obscure heroes and like Marvel comics and stuff. There are characters from all over the world, but yeah, there's no big name Mexican superhero. But so Mexican Iron Man says 2 weekends ago, I finished watching the entire Voyager run. Yep, all the shows. Awesome to see Manu. Great character. Great job, bro. We love your work. So,
thank you, Mexican Iron Man.
And so you're getting a lot of love from the crowd, and I knew you would, because I mean, I know that, you know, like you said, Icheb was on enough so that you could be famous for it, but maybe not enough to where, you know, you're getting massive residuals or anything like that. But you do get a lot of love from the nerd community, because Icheb really resonated, because a lot of us were young men when you were playing Icheb. So he was a great gateway character for a lot of people to be able to vicariously experience Star Trek.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the truth. Oh wow, I just had a whole thought that just left my head. That sucks. I had a gigantic brain fart right now. I had something really important to say. It's such a drag when that happens.
You were probably going to say something to the fact that you're going to officially endorse Turtistan.
Oh, it was something about that, I think.
The crowd is yelling Zorro. Zorro is a Mexican superhero, apparently.
Zorro, yeah.
Zorro was a defender of Mexico, but not really like a superhero in the modern sense. It's not like Zorro was, you know, had superpowers or even was a contemporary hero. You know,
Oh, that's what I was going to say. As far as the love from the fans, I feel when I read over the social media scape, truthfully, I get nothing. 99% of it is love, and I appreciate it, and I thank everybody out there for it. It really touches me when every time I get a thank you or a personal thank you or a tweet mentioning my character. And although this last week has been tough, it's also been overwhelmingly positive. Like we were talking about earlier, the 1% of the hate just hits you a lot harder than the 99% loving comments. Every hateful comment is like a dagger, whereas the loving comments just tend to keep, you know, they aren't as powerful of a thunk. But yeah, you know, for the most part, I feel like I'm not an outcast, and I hope that that's the truth. I appreciate the love, and I'm thankful for it. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, playing Icheb was a huge. That's the other thing I wanted to say. I think some of where the hate comes from is Icheb was such a beautiful person. He was loyal. He was giving. He was loving. He was almost perfect. Icheb was like the nicest, sweetest kid. He was super intelligent. He was everything you would want in a friend and in a human. And I'm certainly not Icheb. And I think from the very beginning, when I was 22 and I started going to conventions and people found out I was like a pot smoking hippie kid, it's had like an effect on people that like to try to live up to Icheb has been really, really, really hard. And at the same time, it's been an honor because I have tried to be a better man because of Star Trek, and I've grown up on the Star Trek convention scene and with the Star Trek fans and the Roddenberry message, and yeah, for the most part, it's just been 99% awesome, and the 1% of hate, I can get over it, and I'm sure everybody else can too.
Do you have, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead, Bert.
Manu, do you know Will Wheaton on any type of personal level?
Me and Will went on a cruise together once in 10 years ago in Hawaii, and we spent some time together, him and his wife and I, on that cruise. But we don't chat. We're not close friends. I saw him a few months back, but we're not like good buddies or anything.
Okay, because no, after I saw, the Icheb death scene, my first review was, if we were going to see anybody from old Trek killed, I think everyone would have preferred it be Wesley Crusher.
Ouch.
Somebody said that in the chat. They wanted to remind me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wesley Crusher was the Jar Jar Binks of the Star Trek franchise. Everybody knows that. But
and he's gotten, poor Will, and Will's done great for himself. So I'm proud of that guy. You think I've received some hate messages?
Oh yeah, he got a lot of it.
I think he did great on Big Bang Theory. I mean,
yeah, he was awesome.
I think that redeemed
Playing the evil Will Wheaton. I love that. And yeah, that's the thing. He owned up to it, and he just basically took it by the horns and made it work for him. And I appreciate that. But that's not going to make me like the character of Wesley Crusher. It's funny.
Yeah.
I like Will Wheaton more than I like Wesley Crusher. But and I'm glad that when they introduced Icheb, my first thought when I saw they're bringing in board kids was, oh great, we're going to have another Wesley Crusher.
Yeah. I wish that I see that he's hosting like a show after Picard.
Yeah, the Ready Room.
I think it would be kind of cool to have Will Wheaton's personality from now into Wesley Crusher, and if they brought back Wesley, have him be like just like who he is now, old, crusty Will Wheaton with his cup of coffee and his messed up hair. And,
I've said, and I know a lot of people hate me for saying this, is just seeing Will Wheaton over the years. I would like to see, like, if you're going to revisit an old character, bring in Wesley Crusher, make him a captain of some random starship, and we can see how he's matured and actually become a real human being instead of the robotic wannabe boy that he was.
Yeah.
Maybe the Traveler could stop in from time to time. Say hello.
Bro,
I'm all about this.
It was just a Catholic priest. Come on. We know it.
Yeah.
So, a couple more super chats. I know you probably want to wrap up, Manu, because I know it's getting late for you. I don't want to.
I just can't stop thinking about this idea of Q coming back and bringing me back to life.
I want that to happen. We need to start a letter writing campaign. Yeah. Right here, right now. There's 235 of us in this room right now. We need to start a letter writing campaign to have Q bring back Icheb, but it needs to be Manu playing Icheb.
Yeah, just bring him back 10 years from older.
Manu, one more thing, if I may.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard, but apparently, I don't know if you saw the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind.
I haven't yet, but I've
okay. Well, it's terrific. I mean, from me as a fan, I loved it. Apparently, somebody's starting the Voyager version of that soon. I don't know if you've heard, but if you haven't, you should.
I'd love to be a part of it. I hope that they don't leave me out. I feel like. This year they're doing all these Voyager celebrations, and I've been blacklisted, man. They don't invite me to these things. So maybe someday that'll turn around. I'd love to participate in that if I'm not hard to find. So
well, and you'll always have a standing invitation from the actual nerds out there, from people like myself, Captain Foley, and the rest of the nerd community on YouTube. I know that you're going to be talking to Midnight's Edge. And I know that there's a lot of other large and small YouTube channels that would love to hang out with you. So the nerd community loves you, man.
You know what I would like to start up, and I might as well start it here. And I'm going to do a bunch of interviews this week because the death of Icheb is sort of, people want to talk. So I'm going to Rome April 14th through the 21st. And if there's any Trekkies out there in Rome that want to start a dinner and just everybody come out for dinner in Rome, that would be super cool. So I'll keep posting that on Twitter, and we'll pick a restaurant. And if anybody out there wants to come show up, I'll announce that soon enough.
So Aberjam, if you can get down to Rome, Aberjam's in the UK. I got a lot of people over in the UK and Europe. So
I'm also in Edinburgh, April 11th and 12th of this year at the Edinburgh Comic Con, which is like the first convention I've done in 3 years. So,
very cool.
If people want to come out for dinner one of those 2 nights too, we can do something.
So there you go. And what's the best way if they want to try to arrange something like that with you? Are you going to set up like a place for them to contact you? Or
I'm most active on Twitter at Manu Intiraymi. I check it much more than my Instagram or my Facebook, also at Manu Intiraymi. But Twitter is where I'll probably be posting.
So if you're in the EU and you can be in Rome or you can be in Edinburgh during those dates, absolutely try to do. If I could get out there, I would. So get out there, show him some love, show him some support, because this guy, he doesn't deserve the crap that he's gotten from, some of the same people that a lot of us have complained about.
Thank you, Anti-Trekker. I've got one more question for you before you guys kick me out of here.
I'm not going to kick you out. I just want to get to the super chats in a minute.
I just put your Twitter in the chat for anybody who needs it.
Anti-Trekker. What's that mean? What do you mean by Anti-Trekker? I love it. I need the explanation.
All right. For you, I will give normally I tell people to watch my freaking video.
Yeah, watch my show, damn it. Yeah. Okay.
No, I actually have a video called Why Am I Called the Anti-Trekker for people that ask that question. But the short version is that when I was a kid, like I said, I'm a bit older than you. And so I grew up in the rise of the Trekkies, right? That when that was first becoming a thing. My mom was actually part of the letter writing campaign that got season 3 going.
Wow.
Okay, so and so I'm I'm old school nerd. And during the 70s, it started to become this big thing, and it really hit when Star Trek The Next Generation came out in the 80s, that there started to become a rift of Trekkies and Trekkers, right? And Trekkies were people that just loved the show, right? Like, I love the stories of Captain Kirk, the stories of Picard, the stories of Janeway, all the stories, all the characters, love them, love them, love them. The Trekkers were people that were more into the philosophy of Trek and more into the people behind Trek, right? So the producers, the actors, the writers, and stuff like that.
Is that still agreed upon, or is that
no?
sort
That's
of
the
all?
problem. There's no universal agreement on any of this,
Okay.
and so but I've always considered myself a Trekkie, and even though some people say no, it's Trekker, and other people say no, it's Trek, so I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm the anti-Trekker. Okay, I am a diehard, lifelong fan of Star Trek, but what I like in Star Trek is not CBS or Paramount or or even Gene Roddenberry or any of that. What I like is Captain Kirk and Captain Picard and Captain Janeway and Captain Archer. And of course Captain Sisko. I love
Icheb.
character, huh? And well, Icheb, of course, but that goes without saying.
Icheb.
We're not sitting here. You know who we don't have on the show? Patrick Stewart. You know why? Because we wanted Icheb.
That's right.
Patrick Stewart offered to be on, but
Who wants to
no.
work with Patrick?
No, Patrick, not this week. Maybe next week.
Yeah, make it show. But but seriously, I love like what Icheb was to, I didn't know much about you before tonight, and I'm loving talking to you. But was I a fan because of Manu, or was I a fan because of Icheb? Well, to be honest, because of Icheb. Now getting to know you, well, it gives me a better appreciation of you and what you've been through with your life and stuff, and what being Icheb has been a part of that. But why I love Star Trek isn't because Manu's a great guy. It's because Icheb is a great character.
Yeah, he was. And I had the same fear as you when he first started out,
That you were going to be Wesley?
Well, not that I was going to be Wesley exactly, but that he was just going to be this kind of dorky kid that was angry all the time and didn't want to play checkers and was just going to be this grumpy kid that every once in a while we saw him. But the writing for him was so great.
It was,
those next couple, the episodes that they gave him and that they, involved him in the A storyline were just really well written episodes. And as soon as they wrote that episode, Child's Play, about my parents.
Child's Play is my absolute favorite Icheb episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, that whole, like I said, what we talked about earlier, the whole idea that Icheb is a living weapon, how brilliant would it be to work that into the Picard storyline somehow? That, if the Borg are making a comeback, guess who's the one person?
And what would I have been doing for 20 years but studying that thing in my blood and finding out how it worked? And yeah.
So now let's get through some super chats, and then we'll let you get to sleep, because you look like you're going to fall asleep, and I don't want to do that to you. Fleet Paw says, all hail Trek Yards. Oh, crap, I live in Caroga. Yep, because he's in upstate New York, so I guess.
Thank you, Fleet Paw.
Let's see. I know there's a couple more as well. Okay, Mercer says, welcome, Manu. Favorite Ghostbuster? Who is your favorite Ghostbuster? He says it tells a lot.
It's easy. It's I can't think of his name.
Van Quinn?
Winston.
Winston.
Yeah, easy Winston. Come on. And then behind that,
steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
Bill Murray behind, right behind whoever Bill Murray played, Venkman. Winston first, though, because Winston is the working class guy that just showed up and went, "Yeah, I'll try this out." And then, oh my God, and tell him about the Twinkie, because that line is
tell him about the Twinkie.
Tell him about the Twinkie.
And then Bill Murray's great time. What about the Twinkie? Rambling Canuck, who's a good friend, says, "Antrekker, great stream, and thank you, Manu, for joining us and joining and all of your work in Trek."
You're welcome. Thank you for watching it and being affected by it.
And then Ensign Rickey says, "Good night, Wesley. Good morning. Good work. Sleep well. I'll most likely kill you in the morning." Oh, yes, a quote from The Princess Bride. I was like, what are you talking about? It took me a minute.
Yeah, it took me a minute, too.
And whose idea was having Q bring him back, says Ensign Rickey, because he's trying to pat himself on the back for suggesting that. Yes, whose idea indeed. I do think that would be a good idea. I do think that would be a way to bring in the character without doing something too cheesy. And in fact, one thing they could even do is a way they could write it into the story is to have them realize, like, if the Borg are reawakening or something and becoming a real threat, and Picard realizes that Icheb, after talking to Seven, realizes that Icheb is probably the only person who can stop the Borg, and when they need to figure out a way to get him back.
And they can rejuice him. He's Borg. They can get him back.
Yeah, clone him something or get Q off him back. There's got to be a way.
Have they done a Q character on Orville yet?
No, they haven't done an omnipotent kind of character yet.
I'd like to do something like that too. All right, go on.
And you know what? And call him E.
E. Yeah. There we go.
See, there we go. That Star Wars girl, Anna. That Star Wars girl. If you haven't heard of her, Anna is a great channel. You should go on her channel sometime. Says, "Much love. I'm sorry for what they did to your character, and don't listen to the haters. You should work with Vic on Star Trek Continues."
Of course, he does a marvelous job over there. That'd be fun. I think it's legal for me to do that. Yeah, I think I could do that.
I'm not sure what the rules. CBS has all these weird fan film rules now that I don't get it. But and Indy also says, "We would like to see Manu appear on Axanar." I don't know if you've seen Axanar, but holy crap, is that some top-notch fan production?
Wow, no, Axanar came out.
Well, no, but there's Prelude to Axanar, and then they're working on Axanar. Paul Jenkins is directing the 2-part Axanar film, and they said that they're going to try to have part 1 out for San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, that's really cool.
And from what I've seen, it's going to be freaking insane.
Neat.
And so you heard it. Neat. That's Manu's official commentary. It's neat. Because a hippie living in Hollywood who got in trouble for defending Kevin Spacey says, neat. I'm just
neato
out there. Mr. Miles, chief engineer, my good friend, says, "We hope you come back someday." Indeed. And I absolutely, I know that it's customary to say, "Well, you're welcome back anytime," but you are truly welcome back anytime. I would love to have you on again. And if Captain Foley would just shut the hell up and let
really. I mean, you've been a real drag, Stuart. I thought I was going to have to fight you for the airwaves, and I'm glad it's really been a battle to get over and just shut up already.
Well, it's 4:30 a.m. here, and I have to be up at 8 o'clock in the morning to help my daughter. So
you're like the more
blah 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 blah
yeah.
blah. Captain Foley.
Jeez, Foley. And that gets us caught up for right now. So thank you, all of you that have super chatted. I know that I truly appreciate it. I know that Manu really appreciates the love that he's gotten.
Manu, the United States of Manu.
I thought it was the United States of
Intiraymi.
Intiraymi, yeah.
Right.
So he's changing the Karoga and Turtistan. We have to unite there, Bird.
Yeah, you guys need to unite to face the real United States of Intiraymi. Get over your differences, Turdistan
And Vance
and Karoga.
puts $22.99 Australian in. So you even have fans in Australia. I bet you didn't know that. By the way, Bird does a perfect Australian accent. You want to demonstrate that for him?
Oh, I'm Aussie, old prey too. We have the roos and the koalas and Tasmania. We don't speak about.
That's his.
It's a hard accent to do, you know.
Especially the way Bird does it. But
I actually did a tour of that country with Miss Jerry Ryan maybe 8-9 years ago, and it was like we called it the Borg invasion. It was a pleasure, and thank you, Australia, for having us and for putting in whatever kind of money y'all have down there.
now Vince says Doomcock and Nerdrotic, who are both good friends of mine. Doomcock is a supervillain. If you think Bird of Prey is bad, Doomcock is a literal supervillain.
I like it.
Nerdrotic is just an absolute nerd from San Francisco. He's a great guy.
I think they should team up. That's a comic book. Doomcock and Nerdrotic.
Well, they do actually.
They do have a comic book. Okay.
Well, they don't have a comic book, but although it's funny, Nerdrotic used to own a comic book store.
Did he?
Yeah, I know. There's a rumor going around.
Always the last to hear about these things.
But what Vince is saying is that Doomcock and Nerdrotic would love to chat with Manu about UFOs and Star Trek, and wondering if Manu would be interested in doing that. Now,
I'm a giant conspiracy theory UFO nut.
okay,
so
let me
I'd
tell
like
you
to-
about Exozone then. And Bird is like you can see Bird having to hold down the erection right now. It's like, yeah, they do a weekly show just about that kind of stuff. And first of all, I know they would love to have you on, and second of all, they are a massive presence on YouTube.
That'd be great, and I'd probably learn some stuff about stuff I don't know about too. So
right.
I always love to chat about that stuff. In fact, the only thing I thought YouTube was for, being the old man that I am, I had no idea there were all these kids making television out there and doing all these incredible things. And until just recently, that's like how out of touch with the internet I am. But I thought YouTube was only for going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory and UFOs and ghosts and stuff.
It's still for that, but it's for others.
They make it harder these days. They don't look fondly on those types of videos, but they still do it.
Yeah, it is.
I will definitely, if it's okay with you, Manu, I will pass on your contact info to Nerdrotic.
Sure, I'd love to do on a show too, man. You know, let's get them all rolling. Yeah. I'd love to.
Justin wants to know who farted. I believe that was Captain Foley. He's been in trouble.
Foley, so
right there.
Yeah. Fleet Paul says, "Thank you for coming, Manu. Glad to get to know you. Absolutely, it was a blast to have you on." And then Ensign Rickey says, "This is where the drop bear falls on Bird of Prey 5." Okay, there's a drop bear. There's a drop bear apparently that's going to fall on you.
I'm looking for it.
I don't see it.
I'm not aware of any such thing. Sassy sound asleep.
Yeah.
That would be great. You know, you should have that. Yeah, you got to get a drop bear thing going on.
I think we need a drop bear.
Like you remember Press Your Luck and with all
no
whammy, and then we hit Bird of Prey with the drop bear. That'd be pretty fantastic. And it's just like a Turdistan logo that comes out of a bear's butt, and it just drops right there on the screen.
Oh, I can make that happen.
Oh yeah, do it. Might as well.
Yeah.
All right, Manu. So thank you again for joining us. Captain Foley, thank you for talking our ears off through this entire stream.
Yeah.
And
speaking of, Manu's been on Trek Yards before. He's helped us with a few episodes, and we've done some interviews with him when we were in Denver. So check those out on Trek Yards.
Yeah, and nice to see you, man. And as far as the offer to you guys still goes, we're looking for this $2 million budget. We had it, and then we didn't have the A-list actor, and we were going to shoot in May, and that didn't happen, so I couldn't make a big announcement. But I would love to do a behind-the-scenes documentary of Star Crew, and if you guys are still down to help me with that, there's not going to be a huge budget for it, but enough to like fly you guys over and pay for your food and your roof. There'll at least be that. Sorry to use your show to talk about that, but
No, that's all right. That way, I can. So just put me in the credits.
yeah, I will. As soon as we get it together for real and we're shooting, I'll be in touch.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, and Bird, any parting words from?
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you, Manu, for being here. I really
Swing,
appreciate it.
swing.
They're asking in the chat, and I'll ask too. Could you say hello to my mom, Mamo Pray? Just say.
Yes, Mamo Pray is a very sweet. Remember we talked about Bird and his condition before we started. Mamo Pray is Bird's mom, and actually has dedicated her life to taking care of Bird, and she is a great saintly woman.
Hello, Mom of. Wow, that's hard to say. Hello, Mom of Prey, and nice to not meet you, but you're not there. It would be nice to meet you. And what an amazing woman, and you've got an amazing son, and it's awesome that this show is happening.
Excellent.
Thanks, Mom of Prey.
And I know she will appreciate that in her thick New York accent. Oh, he's such a sweet boy. So, all right, guys. So we are going to wrap it up there. Real quick before we wrap up, Bird. So just real quick, tonight's episode of Picard, like it, hate it, out of 10, what'd you give it?
Yeah, probably a 6.
6 out of 10. So you thought it was okay?
Was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was a very mixed episode for me.
How far into upstate New York are you? Where are you, man?
Well, no, I'm in Queens. You're
in Queens. All right. So can I hit you up if next time in New York? I was just in New York a few weeks ago.
You can always hit me up.
All right, sweet. I've got an invitation to Mamo Pray's house for dinner.
As long as you're not allergic to dogs.
Nope.
And just be careful, Bird.
I
Bird
eat them all the time.
If you bring cheap food, Bird gets mad. Just letting you know.
What are you talking about? Bring cheap food.
You're yelling at your mom about the lobster.
I wasn't yelling about my lobster. Jeez.
How could you do that?
It's absolute fact. Bird yells at his mom about lobster. But no,
Spoiled of Prey 5.
I will say, so as far as tonight's episode of Picard, I know that without giving too much away, I liked it a little bit. I'd probably go back to a 7 out of 10 on this one. I liked Picard in this one more than I've liked him in most of the prior episodes. He felt more like Picard. And I like and I think that they're dealing with the PTSD of being a former Borg better in this show that they've dealt with before. There's a line this is not a plot point, so it's not a spoiler, I don't think. There's a line in it where someone asks about the Borg, asking Picard about the Borg and how they may have changed because of this isolated cube. And Picard said the Borg don't change. They metastasize.
Didn't that seem out of character for you?
No, because
of what he was saying.
That was exactly what Picard's attitude was in Borg.
But he changed by the end of the episode. That's why he let you.
Right. He did change he had an arc in this episode. He felt like Picard. He was thinking about his cynical ways about the Borg, and then when he saw Hugh's face again, he was like, "Oh, okay. I forgot about Hugh." And that there is potential there. And so I liked it, but we can argue about that in the future. For right now.
By the way, Anti-Trekker, one more question. Behind you, is that a green screen or are those actual Borg conduits?
He's a real Borg.
Yeah, I'm actually a Borg. No, yeah, this is with the green screen.
Ah, okay. Wow, it looks good.
Thank you.
I actually thought you had like a little, downstairs geek basement with.
Well, you mean like Captain Foley there with his. All
that stuff in the background.
Yeah, no, I wish I could do that, but no, I don't. I don't have the money, the space, or the time to build a realistic Borg alcove. But if I could, I absolutely would. I think the Borg are the coolest thing out of second gen Trek.
Oh man, yeah. Me too.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you again, Manu. Get it? Yeah, that was really bad. And we'll end the stream now.
How did they do Manu? I forgot how that went.
Oh.
Was it? No, it was like.